Hey everyone, it is Mary Hyatt and welcome to the Mary Hyatt Show. I am, as always, thrilled about today's episode. Hopefully you guys had a very happy Thanksgiving, and I'm just going to check to make sure we are on live before we actually get going in today's episode, and it looks like we are. Yay. This is when I get excited, when technology works, that you guys can see it. And today we're going to be talking all about shifting from worst case scenario to envisioning and creating best case scenario. So I'm just thrilled for the discussion today. As always, those of you who are watching the YouTube live, I hope that you will comment. I hope that you will chime in, talk to me. Let's create a conversation around this, because what makes it fun is having your input, having your feedback, hearing specifically from y'all about what you are maybe wrestling with or thinking about, or how this actually relates to you. So I want to make sure that there is space for that, as always. So without further ado, I think we're all good to go. So let's start the show. Welcome everybody to the Mary Hyatt Show. Of course, I am your host, Mary Hyatt, and today is episode 59, Creating Your Best Case Scenario. I know that today's show is going to be, I think, really helpful for those of you who just sort of naturally fall into playing out worst case scenarios in your mind. And we're going to get into the ins and outs of why we do that, how we can sort of unpack it and see with new awareness, new perspective that, oh my gosh, I do this a lot. Or maybe you're somebody who sort of naturally doesn't even go playing it all the way out, but you just sort of see common everyday things sort of not going your way. So we're going to talk about that and talk about how you can begin to shift that and create a new vision, a new picture in your mind, so that you can actually live out a different reality, live out a different present moment than maybe you've been experiencing. And I think this is really kind of perfect for the holiday season, because we have a lot of baggage. We have a lot of history around previous years and what has happened in our holidays, whether that be with family, whether that be with just kind of the stress that we typically feel. And so we might already be anticipating the holiday season going negatively, or having some strain, having some obligation, feeling pressure, feeling a heightened sense of anxiety during this time. So this is kind of a perfect opportunity to have this conversation. But before we hop into today's content, I want to invite you guys to my Peru trip. I know that you guys have heard me talk about this before. You have certainly seen pictures, I'm sure, on social media before. And I go back to Peru very often, and I'm super excited that this coming April in 2019, I'm going to be leading another 10-day self-discovery retreat to Peru. All the details are on maryhyatt.com/Peru. So I want to encourage you to check out that link, because I go through the entire itinerary. I talk about every single day what we do, but this is a transformational trip. Every single day is powerful. Every single day we visit the most gorgeous sacred sites. We get to work with shamans. We get to work with local healers in Peru, and we get to take a second to dive deep into who we are, what makes us come alive. And you get to see one of the 7 wonders of the world, Machu Picchu. And it's so, oh my gosh, breathtaking. Like, the energy on the top of this mountain is unlike anything that I have ever felt before. And it's a really intimate group. There's only going to be potentially 10 of us. So it's not a huge tour. It's really intimate, so that we can actually spend some quality time together having conversations with people who are doing this work just like you are doing And like I said, it's one of those trips that a lot of you have said, this is tugging in my heart. I've been thinking about this for years. I want to go. And I'm willing to have that conversation with you. So if you are interested, go to maryhyatt.com/Peru. We can always hop on a call and talk about it more in depth. And I can just share my experience with it. So coming up in April, I hope that you will join me in Peru. I'm just like so geared up and ready to go back. It is time. It is time. It is time. Everything will be so beautiful and so green that time of year there. It is just absolutely stunning. So I hope that I get to hang out with you for some extended time coming up in April. And hey, Kim, I'm glad that you are on with us. And if you are tuning in live to our YouTube show, make sure to comment, make sure to chat, make sure to chime in as we go through today's show. And for those of you, of course, that are listening to the podcast, welcome. I'm so glad that I am with you wherever you are on the road or traveling today. And before we get into the best case scenario part of today's show, as always, I love to share a little bit of essential oil education with you because I believe that there are so many tools that we can put into our toolbox that support us on this path, on this journey of self-discovery, and essential oils have been vital for that transformation and support for me. So, and I know that a lot of you guys use essential oils, so I thought that would be helpful to include since I'm not on social media and getting to share these tips with you that way. This is a really fun way to do it. So today we're going to be talking about ginger, and ginger smells so delicious, you guys. I'm trying to get this to focus on the YouTube show as I hold up the bottle here of our doTERRA ginger oil. But ginger oil is a very warming, very warm spice essential oil that has been used for centuries in Asia for medicinal purposes. It's been used in Chinese medicine for colds and for chills. It's a warming oil. So what I love about that is that it really warms the skin to increase blood flow, to reduce fevers, to stimulate and clear the mind. It's kind of the top oil for nausea. So I'm sort of going over the physical benefits, and then I'll talk about the emotional benefits and the reason that I'm talking about it today. But ginger, physically, what it does on the systems of the body is that it is great for nausea, any kind of travel sickness, any kind of food poisoning from pregnancy, nausea from pregnancy. This is really great. Morning sickness. And it also has a really positive effect on the spleen, the stomach, the heart, the lungs, the kidneys. It's very stimulating, very warming to the digestive system. It can stimulate appetite. It can relieve indigestion, abdominal distress, and gas. And I also love this as a natural expectorant. So it's really lovely for expelling old mucus. So this may be one that you want to pull out this time of year and diffuse, maybe with some lime essential oil, which is really wonderful as well for mucus. But it's really great for the respiratory system and the digestive system, kind of clearing out that mucus. And it is a circulatory stimulant. So it gets that blood moving. It gets your circulatory system really working properly. So it helps to warm cold hands and feet. It's really great at any kind of circulation as it relates to athletic performance. So you can add this in with maybe your deep blue blend. You can add this in with some of your cypress to get that energy going, to get that flow going. And really great for enhancing stamina, endurance, and muscle strength. So I just love our sweet ginger. Now, the reason I brought this up today, and this is going to correlate with today's show, is that it is known emotionally as the oil of empowerment. So what I love about ginger is that ginger helps to assist us in holding no reservations. It has a purpose and it will fulfill it. And so it persuades individuals to become fully present and participate in life. And it teaches that to be successful in life, one must be wholly committed to it. Ginger addresses deep patterns of victim mentality, which is evidenced by feelings of powerlessness, believing everything is outside one's control, refusing to take responsibility for life, or blaming life circumstances on other people or outside influences. The victim feels stuck as they decentralize or disown responsibility and blame others for their misfortune. Ginger empowers individuals in taking complete responsibility for their life circumstances. It infuses a warrior-like mentality based on personal integrity, centralized responsibility, and individual choice. Here, the individual sees themselves as the creator of their own life, no longer waiting for outside circumstances to change. They choose their own destiny. The empowered individual assumes full responsibility and accountability for the consequences of their actions or inactions. So this is perfect as we start talking about our worst case scenario, our best case scenario. We're going to kind of have the conversation around being a victim. So let's hop into it for today's episode. And I don't know about you guys, but recently, I'm just kind of getting my notes here together. Recently, I have found myself sort of playing out the trance of worst case scenario, seeing myself in my future and playing out sort of every single piece of this worst case scenario picture, allowing fear, allowing doubt to creep in and sort of reign over the conversation that's happening in my mind, fleshing it literally all out. And before I know it, I end up in this place where I am alone, I am sad, my life is a sorry excuse for an existence. And that doesn't feel good, obviously. Like it's it's pretty depressing. And I sort of have been able to catch myself in this trance as I've been going through a lot of changes personally. I am seeing how this is playing out in my life and how I'm kind of falling into the rut of playing out worst case scenarios. And I know that not everybody does this, and certainly this is not a conversation that I have in my mind all the time where I'm playing out worst case scenario and this is just how I think 24/7. It's quite the opposite. I actually have a very positive outlook on life, and that's why I wanted to have the conversation today. When you sort of like wake up from this trance and go, oh my God, I fell into this old pattern, my default old way of thinking, the old tapes of worst case scenario and playing out how life is going to be so horrible. It's really easy in some ways to catch when we've gotten into that pattern because it's big, it's obvious. It's like, ooh, that does not feel good. I don't like that. However, oftentimes what's a little bit more subtle and a little bit more tricky to catch, and I think that this is the pattern that I see most people play into in some form or another without even realizing it. So I want to sort of pause up the awareness and to see, hey, is this happening for you? Is this happening in your life? Because it's not that we're always playing out worst case scenario. It's sort of what's happening behind the scenes without us realizing. And we start playing out sort of worst case scenario in really small ways. So not necessarily big life things like my doomsday and my life is going to be horrible, but in small ways. So think about this, like when you start seeing, especially this time of year, and visualizing before you even leave the house, traffic being really terrible on your way to an important meeting. Like, oh, traffic's going to be so bad today, or traffic's going to be so horrible today. Or you're visualizing a conversation that you're going to have with your significant other, and you start visualizing it as a really strained conversation. The conversation goes really poorly. Maybe you end up in a really horrible fight. Like you're already anticipating that happening. Or maybe you are building a business. Maybe you are growing a business, and you start visualizing all the people that are going to be saying no to you along the way, and the awkwardness and the rejection and what that's going to feel like. Or obviously, like I talked about at the beginning of today's show, just this holiday season, and you're already playing out in your mind how this holiday season is going to go. You start thinking about being full of stress. You start thinking about all the pressure that you're going to be feeling, maybe family obligations that you're already feeling resentful for, and you start kind of feeling angry, you start feeling annoyed, and you're already seeing it happen before it actually happens. Or you might be thinking about the grief that you are certain that you're going to feel during this time. And I'm just going to make sure that I am good to go on my video here because it went out for me. So I want to make sure that we're on live. So hang tight if you're listening to the podcast. Hang on just 1 second. Let me just make sure that we are coming in smoothly because obviously this is important stuff. Okay, I think we're okay. So, but then you start believing that maybe this process is going to be really hard for you. Whatever you're starting something new and you go, God, this is going to be really exhausting, or this is going to be really hard. Or you might be thinking, man, this work is going to take a lot of time, or this project is going to take a lot of time. Or you are certain that if you run into somebody, that they're going to make you feel a certain way. You're going to have a certain experience. It hasn't even happened yet, but you're starting to play out these little visions of worst case scenario. Or you start believing that you're going to be anxious when this happens, or you're going to be stressed out when that happens, that things aren't going to be easy, that things are going to be difficult, that you're going to have to fight for it. It's true for everybody else, but it's not true for you. Everything, happens better for you, or is easier for other people, and not easy for you. These are sort of those little small, subtle ways in which we're playing out worst case scenario. It's not necessarily the whole lifetime of doomsday, but it's in these little ways where you sort of expect it to be challenging. You expect it to be hard. You expect the conversations to be strained. And so what you're sort of saying collectively is all of life is hard. We have it hard. I have it hard. And before we know it, we are sort of eyeballs deep in our victim story of how everything is going to be happening to us. Everything's going to be happening to us. And what's so crazy, and think about this just for a second, take a moment to let this sort of blow your mind in a new way. We are rehearsing our lives before they even happen in our minds. We are rehearsing our lives in our mind before anything happens. Like, you're basically assuming the worst, playing out this scene ahead of time. And I'm going to do a really cheesy thing really quick and quote myself here. But this is what is so interesting. Let's see if I can get this to play here. When we rehearse our lives before they happen, no matter if it's positive or negative, it spins into creation the very things that become our life. The very things that become our life. And so, and I'm not sure that slide came through for you guys that are watching on YouTube. Hopefully it will, but we'll see if that works or not. It's like we're putting our order in. We are weaving it. We are making it so. We are birthing those very things. The traffic is bad. The conversation is strained. It is difficult. We run into all kinds of roadblocks. We end up feeling the stress because we have called it into being. We have spoken it into being. And I love this quote by Tara Brach. And she says, and I'm not sure why that is not coming into our screen. And sorry, guys, for those of you who are watching the YouTube live, I'm not sure why we're having technical difficulties on this showing up. So you're just going to get to hear me, and we're not going to have the beautiful visuals that we typically have for whatever reason. But Tara, she says, perhaps the biggest tragedy of our lives is that freedom is possible. Yet we can pass our years trapped in the same old patterns. We may want to love other people without holding back, to feel authentic, to breathe in the beauty around us, to dance and to sing. Yet each day we listen to inner voices that keep our life small. Isn't that just like depressing when you think about it? Like, the invitation of freedom is there. The invitation of this amazing life is there. And yet we keep replaying these old tapes, these old worst case scenario kinds of things, expecting the worst, voicing the worst, anticipating the worst. And the reality is, what we focus on expands. We call it in. It becomes how we perceive what is actually happening. Our focus is our interpretation. And let me be clear, I'm not talking about avoiding or ignoring when life is hard or life is tragic or bad things happen. Obviously, we're human. We're having a human experience. And yeah, things happen. But it's about being disciplined enough in our thoughts so that we aren't adding fuel to the fire, if that makes sense. It's deliberately choosing what it is that we focus on and how we feel so that we get out of those victim stories. Everything is happening to me, that we don't deserve goodness, we don't deserve happiness, we don't deserve love, we don't deserve abundance, but we show up instead to claim our best life and to live it fully. We are writing the scripts of our lives with every thought, with every picture that we play in our minds, with every interpretation of the present, every interpretation of the past. So my encouragement and my invitation for you guys today is to be intentional about it. Why don't we put some effort and intentionality into creating within our minds first what it is that we actually want to see happen in our real lives? Shifting from sort of letting it all happen unconsciously and it's just sort of default to be active in the creation of it. This is where our power lies. This is how we shift out of being a victim and into a creator and having a say over how our lives go. So how do we begin to visualize this best case scenario? And to me, I think there's two ways to do it. One, you can create this image in your mind, playing out best case scenario in advance. And I also believe that you can do it in your present. So let's kind of get into that. Let's talk about how we do that. And we'll see if these slides show up. And if they don't, oh well. It's good stuff regardless. Yeah, I don't know. We're just having some issues here. So let's see. Okay. Let me get back to my face. Okay, so we're just going to go without slides. No big deal. Y'all, one of my favorite things is doing these slides, the beauty, having the aesthetics. So I am like, going behind the scenes trying to figure out, okay, well, what happened? Why can't we get this? But no big deal. This is how it goes with technology. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But let's talk about 4 steps to creating your best case scenario in advance. So if we look at in advance, how are we going to do this? The first step is going to be creating the tape. So when we find ourselves in the worst case scenario, conversation, that tape that is playing on repeat over and over again, we need to basically take that tape out and we need to replace it with a new tape. And so this is where we pause and ask ourselves some important questions. What else could happen? What's another version of the story? So it's sort of pausing and saying, okay, how can I see this differently? What's another version of the story? Because when we're playing out worst case scenario, in some way or another, we believe that's the only option, that it's going to happen this way. We're certain it's going to happen this way. And so we're sort of in this changing of the tape, we're giving ourselves another option. We're opening the door to seeing it in a new way and saying, you know what, it's not black and white. It's not just either or. This is going to happen. I'm certain of it. But the reality is there's like a million possibilities of how this could play out. And so why not go ahead and change the tape to something that feels better than the worst case scenario? And it might not be something that is absolutely the best. All of a sudden, immediately, you can take your mind to visualizing, that you are free of disease, or you have the love of your life, or, you have your dream home. Maybe that's too far for you to stretch from where you are. However, you can do something in your mind that's just a little bit closer to that big grand picture that's going to feel better than the worst case scenario. So what's another story you could be telling yourself? What's another version of the story? If you were courageous and brave enough to let your mind go there, what would feel good? What picture would feel good to you? So we'll take a holiday season example. So if you're thinking about the holiday season, it's like, okay, your experience in the past, of course, has been, let's just hypothetically say, really negative, very stressful. You end up in tears. You end up fighting with your loved ones. It hasn't ever really gone great. So your default way of your brain, the rut in your brain, the easiest place for your brain to go is being informed by past experience. Well, this happened before, so that's probably what's going to happen again. It's going to be horrible. I got to figure out how to manage this. I got to figure out how to get through this without, basically being an alcoholic through the holidays. And, you're kind of seeing this management of the stress, worst case scenario pan out. So the invitation here is to change the tape. What else might be possible here in version of reality? What could be something else that might happen? What would feel really great if it did happen? Changing the tape, giving your vote, thinking about how you would love for it to happen, thinking about what would feel really good, what would allow you to really enjoy the holidays, to be fully present, to be less reactive, to be coming out of a space of love and abundance, starting to visualize that. Changing the tape. That's the first step to creating your best case scenario in advance. You got to change the tape. You got to take the old one out and we got to replace it and put in a new tape. Now, the second step to playing out the best case scenario is to make it a discipline. This is where I would encourage you to set aside some time every single day to visualize this new tape. Now, we'll talk about that in just a second, but this is where the discipline comes in. It's not something that you are going to be doing automatically. What's automatic for you, what's kind of on default, is worst case scenario. And so this is really important because it's so natural and almost effortless to play out that worst case scenario. This is where this has to become an actual practice. That's why they call meditation a practice. You have to practice it. It's like changing that tape. We have to change that tape often, because it's in there. That is the path of least resistance in our brain are these old tapes. And so it's really important to practice the new tape and do it so often and on repetition and so frequent that it becomes the dominating voice inside of your head. And the only way to make sure that that happens and to create that, it's not just going to happen. Like if you say one affirmation, this is not going to happen. If you picture best case scenario one time, it's not going to happen. It requires almost like an immersion type experience. I tend to think of it like learning a new language. When you are an English speaker and you're learning to speak Spanish, your default language in your mind is English. When you look around, everything is English. You identify objects in the English vocabulary. And so when you learn Spanish, what do you have to do? You have flashcards. You review that new vocabulary over and over again. Maybe it's 30 minutes a day, maybe it's an hour in a day. But if you want to learn Spanish really, really quickly, if you want to become fluent really quickly, what do? You go to an immersion type experience. You go to another country, you live with a host family, you are eating, breathing, sleeping Spanish for 4, 5, 6 weeks, and you come out the other end, and all of a sudden, when you look at a chair, let me think of an actual Spanish word that I might know. Cat. You look at a cat, and maybe gato is the first word that comes to mind versus cat. All of a sudden you're dreaming in Spanish, you're thinking in Spanish. Spanish becomes really easy. And the more you practice it, the more you practice Spanish, the more that becomes in the forefront of your mind. It becomes your first thought versus way back here, second, third, fourth, fifth thought. But it requires repetition. The more you can repeat it, the more you can immerse yourself into this new way of thinking, best case scenario thinking, the more it will take root, the quicker it will take root. And then you're not necessarily playing default worst case scenario anymore. So it's like you're overriding this old system because the old system isn't supporting you. The old system is making you feel depressed. It's offering you a version of life that feels pretty dim and pretty dark and pretty bleak. It's offering you sort of a negative experience of life where you're not able to have joy. You're not able to be present. You're not able to connect and feel love and joy and light. It's like, it's heavy. And so based on that feeling, we know, I don't really want to be doing this anymore. This doesn't feel good. So we have to make it a discipline. That is the second step. We have to commit to the discipline. I do it in the morning during my meditation practice. Part of my meditation practice is visualization. Sometimes I journal it out if I need to. And then throughout the day, I'm swapping it. I'm swapping the old negative belief of worst case scenario, and I'm constantly catching myself and flipping it. And we'll be talking about that here in a second. So the third step to really creating this best case scenario is to picture it fully. This is where it gets fun. This is where it gets arms and legs, and it has vision, and it has teeth, and it has cheeks, and it has a body. So when we start thinking about this new tape, now we got to play it out in our minds. We have to visualize it. This is where we get to use and engage our imagination. Because if you think about it, when you think about worst case scenario, let's think about traffic for an example. You've created in your brain a picture of cars lined up, one behind the other, behind the other, behind the other, behind the other, and somewhere you visualize yourself sitting in your car, being frustrated, being in line, it's not going anywhere. Maybe there's honking, it feels crowded, maybe your gas tank is on empty. You've played out through imagery, through pictures in your mind, what it looks like to be in traffic. The word traffic doesn't mean anything until you attach image to it. So once we've identified this new tape, now what we want to do is we want to put imagery to it. That intensifies the route taking. That intensifies this shift inside of our minds. And so we have to, as we close our eyes in meditation, and let's say we want to visualize the holidays being stress-free, we want to visualize it being effortless and easy and good conversation and smiles. Let's put some color around it. Let's put some imagery around it. Start seeing what this looks like. How does your body feel in this space? What's your face doing? Is your face lit up? Are you smiling? Are your shoulders relaxed? Are you feeling that ease in your body? So as you visualize it and you close your mind, start imagining what your body would be like in this best case ideal scene of easy holidays. Start seeing what your kids are doing. Start seeing what your spouse is doing. Start seeing what your partner is doing. Start seeing what your family is doing, your friends are doing. Start visualizing the conversations you would love to have. Start visualizing everything sort of just like moving out of the way, and you're able to find that center of gravity and peace. Even if everything around you, is going a little bit crazy, see yourself feeling so confident, so strong, your feet are on the ground, you're just feeling sort of like this oak tree that cannot be moved. Start seeing that, in full force. Visualize that unfolding. Visualize how easy it is. Really create color, create pictures. See where you are. Are you in the house? Are you shopping? See it being easy shopping, easy at a meal, at your family's house, whatever that might be. Create imagery to it. Create a picture and start playing it like a movie scene in your mind. This is really, really powerful, and it really allows the reprogramming to happen quicker and deeper when you can actually see it. So see yourself being a magnet to, if we take it out of the holiday experience and anywhere in your life that you might be wanting it to be better than it's been, or you're creating a better vision. When you think about money, visualize that money coming in. Visualize somebody writing you that check for the money that you would love to have. See your business growing, people enrolling in you, buying your products or services, seeing the numbers inside of your bank account, what it looks like to deposit that money. Play it out. See what it looks like in your mind. See yourself driving to the bank. See yourself filling out the deposit slip. Seeing yourself putting the check in the, chute, and it going up and going to the teller, and how she says, hey, welcome, hope you're having great holidays. Is there anything else that you need? You said, no, I'm just depositing this big wad of cash into my account, and it feels amazing. Start really seeing each part of the vision play out. This is really important. I'm spending a little bit of time on this because I think a lot of people don't know what it looks like to visualize. It's just like a little kid. You're imagining. You're just imagining. You're using your mind to see a movie of your life. See yourself smiling. If you're dealing with something in your body related to your health, see and visualize all your cells working in perfect harmony, remembering how to be perfect. Seeing the virus, seeing the inflammation, seeing the pain exit your body. Visualize, see it traveling through your bloodstream and exiting out of your hands. You can create any picture that you want. See yourself in situations where you don't have any pain. See yourself healthy, thriving. See the inflammation and the swelling go down. Actually visualize, okay, this is going down, this is going, this is going, this is going, this is going, it's gone. Visualize that. Add some weight to it, step by step. Visualize this amazing change and growth in your life for the best and highest good of you and all those involved. See it. See it, see it, see it in your mind's eye as you close your eyes. See the picture, see the visualization. And then you're going to need to practice this, right? Picturing it fully, practicing it. And this could take 5 minutes. I often do it for about 10 minutes a day. And just this part of the picture part, picturing it fully, adding color to it, making it bigger, making it brighter, seeing all the elements, just like I'm watching a movie of my life where there's no resistance, there are no roadblocks, there are nothing is in my way in these pictures. Everything is easy, everything is effortless, everything in my life remembers how to be absolutely perfect and whole. It's amazing, it's beautiful. And of course, as you sit there and you play out this scenario, you start to feel really good. It starts to feel pretty dang amazing. It's like, whoa. That is a life that I want. And the more you practice that, it's like you're charging up the signal. You're becoming a magnet for those things. What we focus on expands. We're putting in our order into God, to the universe. We're asking for it by visualizing it. Now, the fourth step, and I think this is a step that you probably practice in some form, but it cannot be skipped. This is vital and so important, and that is to offer gratitude. Step number 4 is to offer gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So at the end of this visualization process, as you're visualizing it, see it as done. See it as complete. See it as finished. It is so. Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Offering that gratitude in advance for the most amazing life that you've been able to see and create with your mind. Coming into full alignment with source, with spirit, with God, with the universe, fully aligned, connected to that. Thank you. Thank you for the picture that I can see this. Thank you for that money that's coming into my bank account. Thank you for my cells for remembering how to be perfect. Thank you for the abundance that I have in my body, mind, and spirit. Thank you for my ultimate and perfect health. Thank you for the healing of this relationship. Thank you for the incredible marriage that I have. Thank you for the thriving business that I have. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That gratitude, that appreciation, deep, deep appreciation, it shows trust. It's communicating trust. And this is how we practice trust, and to remind ourselves that we are fully supported, that good is coming to us. It's already on its way. And gratitude is that belief piece. It's the faith piece. Living into the belief that all things are possible and working together for your good, and that you've seen it. If you can create the picture in your mind, what you can see, you can achieve. What you can visualize, you can create. What you believe is possible will come to you. Seeing it and believing it and offering gratitude is incredibly, incredibly important. So at the end of this visualization for me in my meditation, I just spend a couple minutes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I always say thank you for my challenges as those come up. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And the minute you might think to yourself, this isn't really possible. I'm scared to believe in this. What if I'm disappointed? What if it actually doesn't happen? Come back to gratitude. Fear and gratitude cannot exist together. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you can even start thinking, if it's too far to thank in advance, thank you for everything that's right here, right now, today. Thank you for this house. Thank you for this YouTube show. Thank you for all of you guys watching. Thank you for the clothes on my body. Thank you for the money in my bank account that's there right now. Thank you for that fact that I have food in my fridge, that I have clean water in my house. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There's so much to be thankful for right now. And the spirit and energy of gratitude only is going to attract more things for you to be grateful for. It's like living in that vibration of thanks, of gratitude, of appreciation. It's powerful, powerful medicine for your entire being. So change the tape. Make it a discipline, picture it fully, and offer gratitude. And the second piece of this, so that's kind of doing it in advance, right? We're in the practice of it. You can also do this in the present. So let's be honest, when the shit happens, you get to choose your response. It can be, well, gosh, of course this happened, or I'm not surprised, story of my life, or ugh, typical. That's something that my family always says, typical. you know, or you can flip it. This shows the ability that at any moment there is an invitation for the best case scenario where you are in the present actual moment, if you allow it to be. Now, this doesn't mean that you Pollyanna your way through it. This means you have an invitation to choose your response. Even if you're feeling all of the overwhelm in the present moment, like it actually happened, you can still flip it. And we're going to talk about this. So I love this quote by Danielle Laporte. And she says, the capacity to witness something that your mind or outside sources might label as negative and remain in a positive feeling state while doing so is what self-determination and transcendence is about. Think about people who are peaceful even in chaos, or generous when they are broke, or loving in the face of oppression. Think of Nelson Mandela experiencing inner freedom while he was in prison. There's always a way to respond. Just because something happens in your life that is uncomfortable or different or negative in some way, you still get to choose your response. You don't always choose your circumstances, but you do get to choose your response. This is how you can enter into best case scenario at any moment within the present. And so I think there's 2 ways of doing this, okay? So 2 steps to creating your best case scenario in the present. The first step, and this is kind of a fun one, a little cheat sheet little cheat phrase that somebody recently taught me, is to cancel it. The moment you encounter a curveball in your life or you're presented with a worst case scenario thought creeping in about something that is happening, cancel it. So it's like snapping your finger to snap yourself out of the trance of the worst case scenario, and you say, cancel it. So let's say something happens and you're striving for something and it doesn't happen, or you get into an argument with your partner and you start thinking, well, this is of course this always happens to me, of course it's going to be bad, and you start seeing the worst case scenario in the present moment. Cancel it. Like, flip it. The minute that you can catch the thought, you can cancel it. Like, whoop, I'm not putting that out to the universe. I'm not going to make this worse. I'm not going to drive this in deeper by affirming that it's so horrible, affirming that it's so bad, affirming that, of course, it's always going to stay this way. I'll always struggle. I'll always be depressed. I'll always be anxious. We cancel it. So the moment that thought comes in, you can literally say the words to your mind or out loud, cancel. Like, nope, try again. Void. Or you can say, no, just cancel it. And cut it off before that train gets going, before you get into that spiral. Louise Hay says, I say out to every negative thought that comes to my mind. No person, place, or thing has any power over me, for I am the only thinker in my mind. I create my own reality and everyone in it. So she says out. Like, get out thought. So that's the first step. Notice when you're kind of in that trance, cancel it. Cancel. And we're going to offer a new way of thinking. So the second step to creating your best case scenario in the present, when something actually has gone to shit and you're in it, you change your interpretation. That's the second step. First is to cancel it. Second is to change your interpretation to the best case scenario. I would like to give a little shout out to my sweet mom here for a second. And she always asks the question, what would this make possible? Yay, Gail Hyatt. Props to you, girl. What does this make possible? When the shit hits the fan, when life doesn't go according to how you thought it would go, when circumstances are challenging, what does this make possible? This is where you control your response. Change the interpretation. So let's think about a traffic jam. For example, you can instantly change your interpretation if you find yourself in a traffic jam. Obviously, before, in advance, we're visualizing just clear roads, we're visualizing you getting there on time. But let's say you happen to be in a traffic jam. Think about how many responses that you could have to the situation. Everybody in their car is having a different response to this traffic jam. So either it can be like a victim response. So I can't believe this is happening. I'm going to be late. This is going to ruin my entire night. I'm so frustrated. I'm so angry this is happening to me. Or what does this make possible? You know, even though this is different than what I had planned, I love that I get to finish listening to this podcast. Or all is well. I'm in the right place at the right time. This traffic is giving me an opportunity to unwind from the day. Or I love the fact that I have extra time here to practice some gratitude, practice feeling good, practice finding peace, even when my outside circumstances are kind of not the way that I would want them to be. I get a chance to practice inner peace, finding my calm. Or, oh my gosh, I get the opportunity to call a friend that I haven't been able to talk to for a while. That's what's possible by being in this traffic jam. I have more time to call a friend. Or everything happens even better than I could imagine. I can't wait to see how this shifts my entire night and makes it even better than I thought it would go. What does it make possible? How can you change your interpretation? Louise Hay says, all is well. Everything is working out for my highest good. Out of the situation, only good will come. I am safe. It will work miracles in my life. I mean, that's a huge way of shifting into best case scenario in the present. You can cancel the immediate thought, like, this sucks. Freaking hate the fact that I'm in traffic. Ugh, this always happens. Traffic is so bad in this city. Cancel it. No, because that's only going to create more frustration, more anger, more annoyance, and that doesn't feel good. So then we change the interpretation. Wow, what does this make possible? I'm so grateful that I'm here right now in this car. I'm so grateful that I have a car, that I'm driving, that I have a tank full of gas, that I can go from point A to point B in comfort. Wow, like shifting into gratitude, changing the interpretation. I have the opportunity to sit here and to think about what I want to do special for my kids this holiday season. Or I get to call a friend, whatever it might be. You get to change and control the conversation that is between your eyes, inside of your mind, and decide how it is you're going to respond to any situation and make it into the best case scenario just by changing your interpretation. So, at the end of the day, you are the only thinker of your thoughts. We actually have control over what tape that we put on repeat. And if we aren't intentionally creating that picture that we want, the life that we want in our minds, the default is going to take over and play out that worst case scenario. So my encouragement to you is to commit to changing the picture. Commit to seeing everything working out for you, not just happening to you. Seeing the universe, seeing God conspiring for your good. That every challenge, every problem, every change, every invitation, every opportunity can be gentle, can be easy, can be healing, can be good, can be great, can be amazing, can be joyful, can be hopeful. All of this is possible if you allow it to be. Change that conversation in the mind. Change the picture in the mind. And as Hiro Boga says, immerse yourself in the energy of what you desire. Use your brain to flesh out your best life. Why in the world would you want to flesh out your worst case scenario? Why? Why? I'm challenging you. Why? You think it's going to keep you safe, so then you're not disappointed. But if you never stretch to what is possible, giving yourself the opportunity to see your best life, to play it, anything is better than your worst case scenario. Even if it doesn't happen exactly as you pictured it, it's all perfectly woven together for you. It's even better than you could ever imagine, even if it looks a little bit different. But you're getting a vote, you're getting a say, you're getting to help be a co-creator in that, versus just waiting for things to go bad and just surrendering to a shitty life. You know, like we have an opportunity here to rehearse this out over and over again, to see our best life and to say at the very end, this or something better to the best and highest good of everyone involved. You are so held. You are so protected. Everything, this is my belief, everything is being orchestrated behind the scenes on your behalf. So choose to see it that way. It's so much more empowering. It's so much more liberating. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel more joy, more love. You can enter into the present moment in such a more powerful way when you choose how you interpret. Choosing how you interpret gives you power over your experience now in the present and also in the future. It changes your entire experience of life. All is well. All is well. So I hope that you will take these steps to really create your best case scenario ahead of time and also within your present, knowing you have the power to do so. And I just am excited to see how this fleshes itself out for you to practice it, even just over this holiday season. It will be really, really amazing to see what this looks like for you and for me. I'm working on it alongside of you just as well. And I'm excited to see you guys next week. So make sure that you tune in next week to the show. And if you're listening to the podcast, I just want to encourage you, of course, to go ahead and rate this podcast. Make sure that you give it a 5 stars. Make sure, if you feel so inclined, to go and write a comment, which would be absolutely amazing. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as the podcast so you don't miss out on any of the updates. I've been doing a couple little extra things that I'm not going live on. So make sure you head on over to YouTube to see some of those little things, like some guided meditations that I'm offering you. But if you wouldn't mind, subscribe and rate this podcast, I would be ever so grateful. And I will see you next week on another episode of The Mary Hyatt Show. And until then, remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.